Yo, what is up, guys? SDFC bros. Welcome back to another match review video. Carlos, this is the first time we go back to back, but for L's.
Yes.
It's not a particularly nice day today, but how are you feeling?
I mean, if we were disappointed last week, we are furious this week. It's just so not furious, just mad, you know?
Last week, it's like you're scolding the child.
Right.
Now you gotta give
We're
him a little pow this time around.
We're so upset we had to change that venues.
Yeah,
Bad luck with the other one.
Yeah, so we're changing venues for this one. But guys, if you guys are new here, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Check us out on all of our social media at Instagram at SDFC Bros. We're also now on TikTok at SDFC Bros as well. So make sure you guys are checking us out on TikTok because we're putting up some stuff over there that we don't really particularly would put on our Instagram. So go check us out there for new stuff, new content, just trying to keep it fresh. Yeah, so we're just going to kind of see how that goes. But Carlos, let's go right into it. But before we get into the game, let's talk about the new signing that we just got. Oscar Van Hoven, right back from San Jose Earthquakes. 18 years old. He's on a loan with an option to buy at the end of the season. And like I said, he's a right back. He's kind of giving like Trent vibes, but maybe just like a little bit more mobile. He's definitely ball playing fullback, someone who can kind of break those lines, kind of make those overlapping runs, kind of just similar to what you see with like a Kumado, but I think he's kind of like a lawful send type player who can kind of make those runs into the midfield out wide. So what do you kind of just think overall just when you see this signing?
Yeah, I mean, it just looks like we're still trying to add more depth to our team. I mean, can you hate us? We're just trying to do the most we can. And if we can get some loan players while we open that summer transfer market and then going into the next season looking for bigger options and more stuff, I think once we center ourselves as a real team, it's going to be a lot easier to get more players. But it's nice to just keep having depth as much as we can. And it looks like we're playing every player that we get. So, I mean, Milan just had his first 2 games.
Yeah.
And he just was signed, like 3 weeks ago? So it's just
give
like...
or take. Yeah, no, so super excited to kind of see where his level's at. I know he's super young. He's the third youngest in the team behind Saidi and Bambino as well. So that's kind of just something to kind of take into account, right? He may not be, the star-studded name that we wanted. I know we were linked with Serge Aurier. We were linked with a couple other guys that kind of known upper echelon players, but again, this is kind of the philosophy of San Diego FC. We're going to harness a lot of young talent and kind of, create them in this system and style of play that we have, and then eventually, have them fit enough to play for the first team as well. So I think we're going to start to see that, once the youth academy starts, coming into play and, everything like that. So it's going to be really exciting to kind of see where his level is at and how he fits in the team. So
yeah, and I think just keep going. Like it's like again, we keep talking it's a long season, and if we're still in playoff contention, then just having that extra depth more and more that we can going forward.
Yeah, certainly. So I know we hate to do this, but let's get into the game. Let's just rip off the Band-Aid. Let's just get it passed over with. So the new lineup, right? This was something that was very kind of not alarming, but kind of just raised a couple eyebrows to kind of see this amount of changes in the team. And I think one of the names that kind of, sparked a lot of question marks was Andres Reyes coming into this lineup to make his first team debut and his first start of the season against Charlotte FC. And then we also saw Alvarado and Valakari come into the midfield, replacing De La Torre and Anibal Godoy. And also we saw Tomas Angal get that start as striker. And I know last episode we were kind of hinting at that to kind of see what he can bring to that particular position based off of what we saw versus Seattle.
Right, just unfortunately we didn't get to see much of it.
Yeah, unfortunately, and we'll definitely get into that. But what was your kind of, thoughts like when, we were at the watch party and everything? What were your kind of thoughts like looking at like this lineup, and did you think like on paper it was what it saw, or,
Well, I think like at the end of the day, it was weird. It was weird against who we're playing again. Put this in another team against maybe an LA Galaxy, whatever it may be, maybe a Real Salt Lake, like any other team, like, okay, we're, Mikey's trying out something different, but we're playing Charlotte, the top leader in the East. Insane to come out that way. And after a loss, it was just like, why are we changing something that's not broken, one, and two, we still haven't even had like Chucky play multiple games with this solid squad that we've had, and it's just like here we go again, rotating something instead of having like throughout the season we have not had a consistent team, and then we go, all right, we're gonna play against Charlotte, let's do another inconsistent team,
Right.
It was just a really shocking thing, and then seeing Reyes later down the line, just inconsistent.
Yeah, we'll get to him later. But for me, it's like on paper, the formation and the app that I'm using is OneFootball. The app, the formation that they said it was a 4-3-1-2. But for me, in game, it was clearly a 3-4-3.
Right.
And I think when you run this sort of formation, right, a 3-back formation, number one, you need to have a solid 3 defenders that have that chemistry that can be broken by nothing, right?
Right.
And also you need very good dynamic wide midfielders to constantly, bombing up and down that left and right hand side. And I just don't think that we have the characteristics for this type of formation. And I think, for the viewers that are watching, the perfect back 3 formation for me and the perfect team that executes this beautifully is Inter Milan and Juventus of the old, right? Of like the kind of mid 2010s.
Right.
Those teams show exactly how you run a back 3 formation, right? You have 3 solid defenders and solid out midfielders. So it's like, for me, it's like when I see, our back 3, right? McNair, McVeigh, Reyes, right? Or, however it was, lined up. I have my faith put in McNair and McVeigh, but for me, it's just I haven't seen anything from Andres Reyes to kind of make me believe, okay, I can kind of trust him in this position, let alone against a team like Charlotte FC.
Right.
And, we kind of were talking on one of the podcasts that we were on with the New York Red Bulls supporter, and we were talking about how Andres Reyes is a ball-playing center back. And I made the analogy that he reminds me of like a Bonucci type player where he's a ball-playing center back. He can make those passes over the top. And there was loads of times where we saw this over-the-top through ball, constantly and consistently, and it never, got to the player's foot.
Right, and it...
Yeah, go ahead.
Could we blame that on Charlotte's? Can we say that on Charlotte's defense, or is it? And for me, what I personally think is our players are not adapt to get those over the ball. Like it just, I don't think we have a week long of practice enough to be like, oh, let's just throw Reyes in there to be ready for that. That takes a consistent, especially when we've been playing a certain way for so long.
Right.
Throwing Reyes in there was just like, let's figure it out.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. It definitely felt like that a lot. And especially, the times where, Charlotte would kind of break our defense and they'd kind of be either on one-on-one or, kind of just be in that final third. You always kind of felt like something bad was going to happen. And I feel like that's just what the game felt like. I mean, we were, watching at the watch party and everything like that. And I just felt like that atmosphere, it's just everybody just was not, particularly convinced, especially in the opening 10 minutes, when we conceded. And from there, we'll go into that goal. And there's a lot of confusion when this goal went in because you're asking a lot of questions on, number one, how did this get through? And I hate to say it, but Reyes definitely has blood on his hands for this goal. And it was a mistake in the defense. And I just feel like with Reyes in the team, in the defense specifically, it just did not feel organized. And like you could tell like what the, I guess, kind of chemistry we were building, right, in the previous games with Negri, McNair, McVeigh, and Loffelson at that back 4. And then if you want to add CJ Dos Santos in that as well. We saw a lot of positive things, especially against Seattle, where, McVeigh was playing the best game of his San Diego career and everything like that. And we saw a lot of positive things from Negri. I know we were talking about him, before we were recording and everything like that. So it's like, what was your kind of thoughts on the defense and what do you think?
It's really hard to say because it's like we haven't had a real structure at all in the beginning of the season. Like we don't have a solid, like this is our formation, this is what we go with, which is I think a lot, not confusing to the fans, but confusing to the players as well. You're having them rotate so much and trying to figure it out so consistent, like change so frequently that at this point, like you're getting differences in each game, which is like, I mean, it's hard for us as viewers to look and analyze and be like, what is going on here and what's going to be the next move. I can't imagine as a player like, okay, well, I'm understanding this position, I'm getting this down, and then all of a sudden, oh, well, now I got to learn a whole new thing. And I think throwing Reyes in there as well with McNair and McVeigh, they're solid with the people around them that they were, and now you're putting Reyes in there, who again they've had like a week worth of practice with him, and he's the central defender. At this point, there's a lot of confusion and a lot of not understanding.
Right, definitely a lot of uncertainties, and for me, it's like I think to kind of integrate a player, especially with kind of a long-term injury. Mikey Vara said in the post-match conference that he didn't get preseason training with any of the guys.
Right.
He didn't get this was his first out-and-out game. So it's like you're kind of asking questions. Why out of all the games do you throw him in this one when we have particularly an easy schedule kind of coming up? We have RSL this next game, which we'll get into, and then we have Sporting Kansas City, we have LA Galaxy coming up. So it's like instead of kind of just throwing him in the deep end, why don't you just easily just integrate him in the team?
Exactly.
So you're kind of asking a lot of question marks about that, but I think the positive thing that we saw from Mikey Vadas is that he's taking responsibility of these sorts
100%.
of actions, and that's something that's very hard to do as a coach, right? I feel like there's a lot of coaches that think it's their way or the highway. They think that every single thing is right and it's the player's fault, right? So it's good that Mikey Vadas is kind of taking that responsibility of making these sorts of mistakes. And even though that he said this is going to be something where we want to integrate Reyes in, and I mean, let's be real, like we signed Reyes to be a starter,
of course,
right? I don't
100%.
think it was one of those things where it's like McVay would start. It just so happened that Reyes was injured, so we had McVay there, and McVay
is killing it.
He's a baller. So I really like McVay in this game, and I'm really hoping that Reyes kind of takes this match suspension, right? I think it's either a 1 game or a 2 game.
Mm-hmm.
I think if it's a direct red card, it's 2. But I think because it was double yellow, it's 1. So I'm hoping that he kind of takes this game versus RSL, takes training, to be like, okay, let's really kind of do our homework. Let's actually study on how, I can make this chemistry with the defense a lot more cohesive, because in this game, it was a complete shit show. I feel like there was just no organization. And I think a part of that kind of goes into the midfield as well, right? We said on paper it was a 4-3-1-2, but in game it was a 3-4-3, right?
Right.
So it's like we took out De La Torre, and I know last game.
Well, no,
I know last game, or 2 games ago versus Colorado, or last game versus Colorado, we were talking about how De La Torre, maybe isn't the right profile of player, but it's like, again, it's like when we see these players kind of come out of the team, you see the exact impact that they bring on the pitch, right? We mentioned Ingvartsen a couple episodes back. Now De La Torre, we're starting to get like that PTSD of what we're missing from Ingvartsen. So it's like it's really important what De La Torre brings to the table in terms of like that kind of creative spark to kind of dig us out of a hole when need be. And I feel like, respectfully, I don't think Valakari was playing at left mid, right? Until Tomas Angal came off with the red card. So, and again, we'll get to that, shortly. But when you have these players out of position, it's just like maybe in training it worked out, but when you actually execute it in a game, right, away from home and everything like that, with all things considered, things just don't really go your way.
Right.
So.
No, I agree with you. And I think with what I want to speak on too is because I know we talked about De La Torre, like, being like, oh, who knows, maybe we could find somebody different because, again, he's on loan.
Sure.
But you genuinely see the difference that the team has having him on that field.
Definitely.
And again, like we've talked about this 100 times, Godoy.
Right.
But like, again, it's just like another solid game where we have to win, where we should take it seriously, where we should still be like, hey, we beat LA Galaxy, we beat, like, well, obviously we know now that's terrible, but like we beat LAFC, we beat these teams, and it's like, why can't we beat Charlotte?
Yeah.
And so why are you, and that's the only thing that I have questions for Mikey is, why are we not taking this game as seriously as we should have?
Right.
Not even just to like, because we need to win it, but just to be like, no, we are a team that is going to be hard to take it seriously. And yet you go, let's take out one of our most serious midfielders, the one who holds the team down together, and probably would have helped just structure the team just a little bit more, just a voice. Because you see, while the subs were really late, you see when the subs come in, you see a different San Diego. And granted, again, we're lost by 3-0. Charlotte's not really pressing us or anything. I can't speak for like what would have happened.
Right.
But you do see a more consistent San Diego.
Certainly.
And it's just like, I don't know. It was one of those weird questions, and you're right, Mikey did own up to it. But I think this is one of those games.
There's a lot of question marks.
Yeah, this is one of those games where we just where I say this is the first time I can say, Mikey, what's going on?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a mutual consensus around the fan base to look at it and be like, the game plan was not the right one to go with.
Right.
So I think Mikey has acknowledged that, the fan base has acknowledged that. So now the best thing that we can do is kind of just look at the mistakes that we made and kind of just hopefully, patch up the holes to be like, okay, how can we, make our weaknesses not as exposed as in this game?
Right.
Because there was a lot of them. And granted, I get it, we're 10 men, damn near the whole game. But I think regardless of the fact is, let's go to that red card, right? Let's go to the red card. For me, for one, back-to-back games where we get a penalty.
Right.
Which, 2 back-to-back BS penalties
100%.
at that.
I don't know what's going on.
For me, it's like, this was never a penalty. Like, not even close. Like, for me, it's so clear that Reyes gets the ball, right? It's like, the ball literally, you see them go like a 50-50 and the ball just stays still.
Right.
So it's like that, for me, is a clear indication that there is contact from the defender, right?
Exactly.
So it's like, for me, it was just so many like BS calls like in this game. And I think for the whole season, I feel like San Diego's kind of been getting shafted a little bit. What do you think?
No, I agree. I don't know what's going on with these refs, but we have been... I don't think I've seen it this crazy because I don't see like going the other way around. Right. But I think lately, like, these refs are kind of giving us a hard time, and I don't know if it's because we're brand new to the league or what's going on. But genuinely, like, the fact that the ref had to go to VAR to look at it and stayed looking at it for so long, I think he was on a power trip. I think he didn't want to like it's probably
like
embarrassing.
His decision.
Right, it's embarrassing to come out and like it's not a red, and then also it's not a PK because it's direct. So he has to, what I'm saying, and it's. You could sit there and say, you could argue left and right. You know what I'm saying? I think any other ref who doesn't jump to that decision goes and says, I was wrong. I think he really did not want to admit defeat at this point. But, I mean, props to Reyes for even making that tackle, which is insane. Yeah. Again, we see a sluggish Reyes, this whole thing, but he did create a beautiful tackle.
Yeah.
Let's say no red card. Let's say nothing. Yeah. Beautiful.
I agree. Mm-hmm. I agree, certainly with that. And yeah, this ref, I just feel like was just on my nerves the whole game. And I mean, this penalty call kind of just, sent me over the edge.
Right.
And especially because it's like, yes, he looks at the VAR, right? For a solid, I'll say, 5 minutes was at a time at the end.
Weirdest angle ever.
The most strange angle. It was literally the angle in which, like, you're watching it on TV. Right. There wasn't, like, an angle from behind the goal or on the side or anything like that, where there was loads of great angles.
Because we got to even see one where...
So it's like you literally see the exact moment where Reyes gets the ball, and that's not the angle that he's getting shown. So there's a lot of inconsistencies in the arbitration in the MLS, and Mikey has definitely made that a point in the last press conferences versus Colorado. Right. He said exactly that, where there's no consistencies with these penalty calls or just fouls in general. So
exactly,
a lot of question marks to be asked with arbitration in the MLS.
With the red card, do you think San Diego gets a goal at least? Do you think San Diego has a more fighting chance, or do you think we still fall?
Respectfully, I don't think so, because it's like I don't think we would have made the necessary changes to be made to kind of make that difference. And I know we made those second half changes in halftime when obviously we did get that red card. So we kind of had to adjust our style of play for the red card, but I don't think we would have changed, to be honest. I don't think we would have changed, because I think we still would have stuck with that 3-4-3. I still think that we would have kept maybe Valakari on, or maybe I mean, I did like Diop this game. I know he had that goal line save that was really big. So I know he made a mistake last game, but in this game, I thought he was probably one of the better of the bunch in this game. So I'm liking how Diop is kind of slowly kind of integrating in this team. So I think that's one of the positive takeaways that you can take from this match is Diop's performance in these last couple of games. And honestly, truthfully, it's like if we're not playing Negri in these next games at left back, I would like a Diop, especially because Bombino is hurt. So hopefully we can kind of see him soon. But the overall, that first half was just a poor performance, and we were hoping that in the second we would stop the bleeding, at least for me. So it's like we saw Maiton come in, we saw De La Torre come in. For Alvarado and Valakari, they got taken out. So what did you want to see in the second half? Did you want us to kind of stop the bleeding? Did you want to see us kind of strive for a goal, or what were you thinking?
Yeah, I was hoping to strive for a goal. I mean, for me, it's always like, we're down that much, we're down 10 players. I mean, for me, it's like go for broke.
Right.
That's the way I would look at it. And if I was coach, I'd be like, go for broke, just try to do that. I think that's what Mikey Vadas is kind of going as well. But again, there was just nothing that we could consistently do. And honestly, Charlotte let us off easily, because they could have kept scoring more goals if they wanted to. We could have ended this as a 6-0.
Yeah, it could have been a 5-6-0-er, and I think definitely Charlotte definitely took their foot off the gas.
100%.
But, when we saw Mighten come in. And I know, this
Right.
was, a player that, I was like super kind of high on to kind of see where his level's at just based off of his exposure alone. It's like you're seeing where on the pitch he is most lethal, and that is in the final third.
Right.
If you put him in those pockets, he will take your ankles. And we saw
100%.
that maybe once or twice in this game where he's beating his defender on
Right.
the dribble, and we're seeing him be dynamic in these areas to get in dangerous positions to make a difference. And that is something that, even though Chuki's goal output has been good, I think a goal and 3 assists in 6 games is very good.
Right.
Right. I think it's.
But again, what teams are we playing against?
I hear it, but also it's like you kind of have to take into account it's like the moments where he needs to come up, right? Where, it's great where, he can kind of score the second or third goal versus Seattle, but it's like when we kind of need that opener, right? Where he makes that difference, right? We've seen Dreyer do it loads of times. We've seen even De La Torre kind of make that difference in Colorado and in Austin, right? So it's like we're asking questions on where is Chucky going to be like most dynamic. And for me, I haven't seen a Chucky performance, maybe bar Seattle. And I know, he's still kind of maybe trying to get back into match fitness, but I just feel like he hasn't really, kind of had me on the edge of my seat in any of these games. Like
Mighten has.
Like Mighten has, exactly.
And I feel like defenders are way scared of Mighten than Chucky at this moment. Okay, I'm not joking. Mighten has the ability to go through 2-3 defenders, and that before we were talking about how like in other games like Chucky draws out defenders.
Right.
Lately, what we've been seeing is that is not the case at this point. Chucky is not drawing those defenders out because it's almost like as these teams are noticing, okay, we could put one man on Chucky and that's locked in. You put Mighten there, you need 2 to 3 people on him at that moment to stop him because I don't know what it is. He has the ability to do. And again, if we are not having Chucky on this team, Mayan is a great starter for any team. It's like there's not. I wouldn't complain if he stayed there the whole season.
Oh yes.
What can we do going forward? I don't know. Chucky's our star player.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the difficult thing because it's like you can't bench Chucky.
No, you can't.
You know what I mean? Like that's like something that is a big caveat kind of to having 2 DP wingers, right? You have Dreyer, we got Lozano. So it's like it's kind of tough to kind of look at a guy like Mighten who's performing right off of the bench, making that spark, making that difference, and having that dynamism and confidence. I think is something that is really big to acknowledge. Having that confidence to take on 2 defenders, you know what I mean? So it's like it's really something to kind of look at going forward.
And even then, I mean, Chucky didn't have the best performance, but for some reason we and again, Dreyer's not doing the greatest either. But we take Dreyer out instead of Chucky, and it's just like you're right. Like Chucky's not going to be that player that we take out at all. He's going to play the full game until we can. But I think it's going to
take a lot to have Chucky on the bench, a healthy Chucky matter, because obviously Chucky's injured, Mighten comes in, everything's okay.
Good. We're
so
happy.
It's like now it's like the caveat is okay. How hard is Mighten gonna have to work to really knock Chucky off of that pedestal? Who he's the face of our team, right?
There's no way, yeah.
So I mean, like we literally got a Chucky shrine
exactly
right here. So it's like it's really gonna be hard for Mighten to knock Chucky off of that pedestal. So, but I think in this game we learned a lot, the good and the bad. But I think in the process we had to get knocked out to kind of figure out which player has certain characteristics to play in certain areas. Who's good at what looks good with the team, and what the team looks more comfortable playing in. And I think at this stage of the season, I'm kind of glad we're figuring it out, right? We're 9 games in. We're still, super early in the first, not even halfway through the first half of the season.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like we're still, very early. So it's sucked that it happened, right? And especially in the fashion that it happened, right? 3-0, red card, everything like that. But, what was your kind of like moment? What is a positive takeaway that you have like in this game, if anything?
Like if anything, the most positive moment was seeing when our team, I would say, the team that I have been seeing, the team that I think the fans wanted to see, when they came in, you could see a structure.
Right.
So it's like just going forward is just like knowing, and I think like everybody in that moment, like Mikey, us included, the fans, even the team knew like, okay, well this is our team. Like we can't replace this. They're solid. We understand that going forward. And I think that, like, agreement with you is just like that security in that, you know what I'm saying? Okay, we know we messed up. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is our team. We know that they're solid, and just keep going forward that way. But again, like you said, it's a long season, so we can't have that team consistently.
Yeah.
And what are we going to do when we're in the Leagues Cup as well, when we're having these back-to-back games and you can't play everybody?
Right. Yeah, definitely. So with that being said, let's go to match ratings.
Right.
Let's go to match ratings. So for me, I said a 4 last week. I'm going to 3. This is a 3 out of 10. I was not impressed at all. I think the decisions made early on with the lineup and kind of just the style of play, the formation, I just was not a fan of it. I just don't think that this was the right time to experiment. And I really think that we got a spanking, right? We got a little pow versus Charlotte. So what was your match rating for this one?
I mean, honestly, I'm going to have to go with like a 2. I think I went 3 last week, so anything. But it's just funny to me, like, we go from a loss, but we win arguably the best that we can. I think we're the best loss that we've had this season against Austin FC, which wasn't too bad. And I saw so much potential. I think even fans outside of that see that. Then we go against Colorado, and it's another one. And you don't think it can get worse, but we come against Cincinnati, and it's disgusting, like borderline disgusting. I wipe a number 2. This was a number 2.
Right, yeah, no. So, no, we didn't play Cincinnati. We played Colorado, and then we played, obviously, Charlotte.
That's what I meant.
So.
I know I said Cincinnati.
No, but, yeah, to your point, in our last 5 games, 2 wins.
The game was so bad. I'm forgetting. I'm not even...
Yeah, no, so, with that said, in our last 5 games, 2 wins, 3 losses, but 10 goals conceded, which is not okay by any standards, especially for me. I know, this was kind of my main talking point at the start of the season was our defensive concerns, and this is exactly what I was worried about with this whole kind of dynamic, offensive style, right? How are we going to cope defensively? And I think that we just pushed a little bit too offensive in this game, where it's like we maybe should have looked at the game plan to be like, look, Charlotte has dangerous weapons. Like Zaha was, causing us trouble all game, right? Even though he didn't get on the score sheet, goal or an assist or anything like that, he still, had a lot of moments where he gave us a lot of trouble, especially in the midfield. He was dropping deep, and I feel like if you got like a guy like Godoy who has that, defensive kind of, in Italian we call it grinta, right? Where you have a player like that who's, gonna, make those hard tackles and challenges. That really would have disrupted the game, and I feel like, we really missed the mark on that one.
And I think with a game like this, you like on FIFA, you just leave it on balance. You know what I'm saying? For real, it's like it's just like you don't go in expecting so much, a win or not. You stay balanced. You stay with a normal formation and go, because it's a tough game.
Yeah, certainly. So with that being said, we are 6th place in the table now. I think there was a lot of this was a game where it's like if we win, we can really separate ourselves from the pack, right? I know Vancouver is just a train. They are just, full steam ahead. No one is stopping them. And I know even Austin as well is doing pretty well in that regard. So I think if we did take that win versus Charlotte, I think we really would have saw a separation from the rest of the pack. We would have sat 2nd place. If we did take the 3 points. So in our next game, we play RSL, and this is the first time that we're playing a team 2 times, right? In that first away leg, we beat them 3-1. It was a solid, get the job done, get out of there with 3 points, and it was super easy, and it was really nice. We were at El Chingon for that one, so if you want to check out how that game went, check out our Instagram, and you'll see what we did there. But in this game, we're at home, right? We're back to home, right? 2 away games, back to back. So now we got a nice little home leg. So we're back at Snapdragon. How are you kind of feeling with these last 2 games? Kind of seeing now we're back at home. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think it's an important win. We're gonna have to win. We can't. I think we drop way too low if we go. I think we ask way more questions if we don't win this game.
Yeah.
We are a different San Diego than the San Diego that played that Real Salt Lake team. I think we have the ability to beat that team a lot better than we did. I think was that our third game?
I think our 3rd game.
Yeah, our 3rd game. And the team that I saw play against LAFC and Seattle Sounders beats that Real Salt Lake team 100%, undoubtedly. It is so hard though to come out of this hole, and it's, again, like we talked about this a lot, and it's something that I said, Mikey has to be able to take this team out of that and be like, like, we're doing this for the fans, we're fighting for this fans. What did Mikey not do this game was exactly that. It didn't seem like he let these players know or give more for this game.
I mean, humbly, I think I disagree with that. I don't think it was like, oh, the players like weren't fighting or anything like that. I think genuinely, we were just tactically outplayed. I think just the other team was just miles ahead of us. I think it wasn't
fair,
like
fair.
a game where it's going to be one off of passion.
Right.
It's going to be one off of tactics.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think that was a very tactical game.
I think, and we got it wrong, right? I think, we put our hands up. We'll say we got it wrong in this one. But regarding for Real Salt Lake,
No, you're right.
they sit in 11th place. So it's like, I think this is kind of a game where, we have to take 3 points.
100%.
I don't think this is, if, ands, or buts. We have to take 3 points, especially because, we lost 6 points in these last 2 games where you're maybe thinking that maybe, okay, we maybe lose to Charlotte, but you beat Colorado. So it's like, we're dropping 6 points. So this is a time where we really have to make up and we have to play catch up now.
Right.
And, we sit in 6th place right now, like I said, but it's like this table. It's still early in the season where the table is still close, where one loss can take you 3-4 places down.
100%.
So it's like, you're asking if LAFC win Seattle, then, now we're in 8th, 9th place. So it's like, and that's a very good possibility that can happen. So it's really important to take this game by the scruff of the neck and be like, okay, we have to win.
Yeah.
Right? You have to get 3 points.
And I hope we see the importance of that, not only because it's a home game, but again, we have to win. And again, Real State, RSL, I'll say, because it's so hard to tongue twister. They haven't improved since we beat them. We've only gotten better. Obviously, these last 2 games have been poor performance or whatever. But at this point, like, questions are 100% raised if we do not beat RSL.
Yeah, certainly. So I think for me, let's go to match predictions. So I'm gonna say, I think we do win, but I think it's gonna be a little bit more closer. I'm gonna say a 2-1.
Yeah.
I'm going to say a 2-1 just solely off of the fact where it's like I think we might see this team go back to basics, right? Where we saw versus Seattle, right? We saw versus, it's kind of escaping my mind, but the last couple fixtures where it's like we kind of tinkered with the lineup a little bit. We resulted back into the basics and we come away with a positive
100%.
result. So it's like, I think, we're going to follow a similar pattern there. And I think we're going to take the win. And I think this is the moment where we really have to look at the season where we have a lot of easy fixtures and take these games one step at a time and really evaluate and take our time on our game preparation.
Right.
So what do you think, Matt?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think 2-1 is like the simplest answer. I don't think Salt Lake doesn't score on us for sure. I think we're still a little iffy on where we're at and what's going on. I think we need a boost to start getting back into that team that beat Sounders 3-0, you know. So hopefully we can get a little bit more goals scored at this point, but I think there's a lot of questions that need to be answered at this game, and 2-1 it seems like the best in between.
Yeah, certainly. I think there's a lot of fill in the blanks that need to be addressed. And I'm hoping that, we know that Mikey does, his proper homework and, he really studies, this team. And I think he has an idea of how he wants the team to play. But I think sometimes he's just forcing too much out of the players at times. So, but I think, that just kind of shows that he has that much faith in the players, which is great, right? You want a manager that has, the faith in the players to kind of do what he asks. So I think that's something really important to kind of acknowledge. So, yeah, I don't have any much to add. I think we hit all the talking points and everything like that. But guys, I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. What do you guys think about these last couple games for San Diego FC? How do you think that we can bounce back from this one? And do you think that we can come and stay undefeated at home? Carlos, this is kind of your time. I don't know if you want to say anything or not, but what do you have to say?
Yeah, no, I'm at a loss for words, and that's a hard thing for me to be at. But I think just realistically is again, it's just like, hopefully you guys can come out on Saturday with a little bit more oomph and more, will to keep playing and get out of this slump. I know it's a little hard because it's back-to-back away games. We don't have the ability to win everything, but especially when tactics aren't there, when things aren't there. But you're coming back to your home fans, your home stadium. Let's refocus. Let's take this week to sit down and just keep going and keep going and keep going. I know the fans are going to support you still. I know they continue to come out to these watch parties. They continue to keep putting the faith. And again, like every single fan that I talk to, even after these games, it's not about if we're going to lose, it's when we're going to start winning again. And that's the most important part. We have the faith, and so just let's keep going and let's make these four or five.
Yeah, 4 out of 5.
Yeah, 4 out of 5.
Home games.
Home games matter,
Yeah.
and let's run it up.
Yeah.
Back to the top, baby.
Yeah, very well said, Carlos. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Check us out on Instagram and TikTok at SDFC Bros. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Ciao, ragazzi.